You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. We're going to be talking very shortly to Mandy, and also we're going to be talking to Tracey as well. And of course it's part of our regular slot here at the Monday Night Community Show, where we catch up and talk to the Health Visitor Swale Team. They normally come in with a different theme or a subject to cover. We're going to be covering all about sleep this evening. But firstly, as always, it's great to have you here, Mandy. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for letting us come on again. It's very, very nice to be here. We just realised it's been Christmas and New Year in between. A lot's happened, and it's been quite a few weeks since we came, but it's gone quickly.
Yes, it certainly has gone quickly this year. Well, I was wondering, before we get on to our subject to sleep, if you could just give us a little introduction into the Health Visitor Team Swale.
Yeah, well, we're a big team, and we're based in Sittingbourne, which is obviously over the bridge, and we're based in Kent Science Park. There are 3 teams covering Faversham, Sittingbourne and the Isle of Sheppey, and we're all divided into different teams within that, and obviously some of us cover the Isle of Sheppey and some cover Sittingbourne, and some of the health visitors cover Faversham, right down to the other side of Faversham. So we are a very big team, and we cover a lot of children, a lot of families. The team itself is there to basically help mothers, families and their children to grow up strong and healthy, and to help hopefully guide them through some of the developmental issues they might have, some of the problems they might have as children progress from 0 to 5.
So I was wondering if we could now start our subject. And I think we're going to start off with sleep safe. Eventually.
Yeah, we're going to. I'm going to hand over to Tracey, my colleague, who is our what we call our lead health visitor for safe sleep and promoting safe sleep and preventing the risk of cot death, which I'm sure most people have heard about. But we like to give regular information about this because there are updates, and it's been very successful, our Back to Sleep campaign, which Tracey's going to talk about.
Hello, thanks for inviting us on. I'm Tracey, I'm a health visitor in Swale, and part of my role is I work very closely with the Lullaby Trust. It used to be the Foundation for the Study of Infant Deaths, and is now the Lullaby Trust. Lots of information about safe sleep, and the health visiting team as a whole will always be able to give you lots of information about safe sleep if you want to call us or come into the child health clinics. It was in 1991 that the Department of Health and what was then the Foundation for the Study of Infant Deaths rolled out a big campaign, evidence-based campaign, looking at the causes of cot death and trying to reduce cot death. And since then it's really grown, and now we've got lots of research-based information about safe sleep. We know things to keep babies safe. So I'll go through a few facts you can do to keep your baby safe. And this applies to all babies under the age of 6 months. So always place your baby on their back to sleep in their own cot or Moses basket. Keep your baby smoke-free during pregnancy as well and after birth. It's great if you can breastfeed, but if you can't, that's just one of those things, and you can use a dummy. There's lots of information about use of dummies as being helping with the risks of cot death. Place your baby to sleep in a separate cot or Moses basket, like I've said, but always in the same room for the first 6 months. If you really can't keep your baby in your room with you, put your baby in a room that's very close to yours and keep doors open. And again, I just reinforce, always keep your baby on his or her back for sleep. Information about mattresses. If possible, always use a new mattress for your baby. Never use a mattress that's torn or broken in any way. It should be a firm, waterproof mattress in good condition. And things to avoid: never sleep on a sofa or an armchair with your baby. Never be tempted to do that. That applies to dads as well. If you want to give mum a break, never be tempted to fall asleep, because we create a lot of heat, and overheating is a big risk factor for babies. Never sleep in the same bed as your baby if you smoke, drink, take drugs, or if you're very tired. Never fall asleep in an armchair with your baby, or sitting up. Always put your baby down in his or her cot, and avoid letting your baby get too hot. So don't use heavy, thick blankets. Use a cool, lightweight cellulose blanket. Keep your baby's face and head uncovered. Don't need pillows. Pillows create a lot of heat. So keep your baby cool, because babies actually get quite warm. And you can see how warm your baby is just by sort of touching her chest or the back of her neck. And it's surprising, babies can get quite warm. You only need to keep your house between 16 and 20 degrees to keep that temperature for your baby. You don't need to have heating on at night very often. It really doesn't get cold enough. So I'm just going to mention 5 basic items to safe sleep, and that's, as I said, a cool cellulose blanket or a sleep bag you can buy, a firm mattress, clean, well-fitting, a nice cot or Moses basket, and a room thermometer, and a dummy is important as well. And if you do use a dummy, it's important that you use a dummy for every sleep period. It just seems to have lots of preventative factors.
Covering all about sleep, recovering safe sleep. We've also been covering the prevention of cot death as well. And I understand we're going to carry on with Tracey on those areas.
Yes, hello. Yeah, I'll just go over some of those things again and talk about safe sleep. Sleep is one of the big things for us as health visitors. You know, lots of families find that they experience difficulties with getting little ones to sleep. It's a very common problem. But don't hesitate, please do call in to your local health visitor if you do need some help with getting your baby to sleep on his or her back, because some babies really do find it quite difficult to settle to begin with, and it's really an important part of our role to help to support you with that, so please do contact us. And parents try all sorts of things to get babies to sleep. And swaddling is something, you know, people have been swaddling babies for years. And we don't have too much information on swaddling, but if you do want to swaddle your baby, it's much safer if you swaddle in a very thin sheet or very thin blanket, cellulose blanket with little holes in, and you don't cover baby's head, just cover swaddle baby loosely. And you know, and see how you get on. Slings and car seats are other things. Some parents find that babies do seem to sleep better in car seats, but obviously for very young babies, car seats really no support there for baby's head. It's much safer for babies to lie flat on a flat, firm surface, such as, you know, in their cot or Moses basket. So we really don't recommend that babies stay in car seats for too long, just for car journeys really. And slings, I haven't got lots of information about slings, but slings that cover babies' heads and faces, babies can overheat, so they can be a little bit unsafe. We've also got information about a website called Bubblicious, which is really for young parents, and it's run by the Lullaby Trust. So I'll give you the information on that. It's got a free website here somewhere, which I can't see in front of me. I've got a contact number, but if you Google bubblicious.co.uk, there's lots of information on there for young mums and dads. So it's well worth having a look. And there's also a free phone helpline for Bubblicious, which is 0808 802 6868. And you know, if you're a young parent, you might find that very supportive. Or of course you can call your local health visitor to ask any questions about sleep. Things that we talked about earlier were always place your baby on their back to sleep, and if possible make sure that your baby is in a completely smoke-free zone. So if you need some support with giving up smoking, speak to your health visitor or go along and see your GP, because that's very important for babies, for safe sleep.
And I think we're going to be talking generally about sleep next with Mandy again.
Hello again. Yes, we talk to lots of mums and families who have got new babies, and one of the biggest problems that they have, and one of the most literally one of the most exhausting issues, is about not getting enough sleep and not being able to settle their babies at night, and having problems with the baby waking and not being happy, and wanting to get into some kind of pattern or routine. And we talk a lot about routines and a lot about why their baby won't sleep. And there's lots and lots of reasons why that is the case. And I think we do find sometimes that mums have a bit of competition between themselves as well, as to how does your baby sleep, and my baby's sleeping for 4 hours, and my a bit of a kind of competition as to why is my baby not sleeping for long enough, and why am I so exhausted and not getting enough sleep myself as a mum. And I think families can get quite stressed about it. It can cause a lot of problems, and it might be helpful sometimes to understand why babies don't always do what we want them to do, and that's sleep for 4 or 5 hours at night. And especially in the early stages, babies may sleep a lot, but they may sleep a lot during the day, and they may do their waking at night, and that's quite normal. They haven't quite distinguished between day and night. Babies have very small stomachs. They have tiny little stomachs, and they are unable to take a lot of feed at one time, so they do wake up hungry. They wake up every 2 to 3 hours in the first few weeks, and until feeding patterns are established, then sleep patterns will follow. Babies, in the first 3 months, for certain, they operate on a 24-hour basis. They don't stop at night and wake up during the day and do all their feeding in the daytime. It's 24 hours, and they have short sleep cycles, so they wake up easily, and that's why that happens. And it's mostly around the feeding and the fact that they need to be fed regularly. If they're breastfeeding, then the breast milk gets very easily absorbed and very quickly digested, so that it doesn't sit in the stomach for very long. It goes straight into their system, and it's good and nutritious for them. If they're formula fed, if they're bottle fed, then the milk does stay a little bit longer in the stomach, but they still need to. They still have fairly short cycles of sleep and waking, and that is to be considered as completely normal in the first few weeks. So parents, unless the baby is sick in any way, sleeping too much, or extremely distressed, and there's obviously something wrong, and mums usually know, then that's a time to go to the GP and check with the GP that physically everything's okay. And if everything's okay physically, then it's just a case of going with the flow for a bit, and actually accepting that babies do take a little while to settle into a pattern of sleep.
We're going to be continuing to talk with Mandy on the theme of sleep.
Yeah, I'm going to come back a little bit to this whole sleeping through myth, really, that babies should be sleeping through, and a good baby is a baby that sleeps all the way through the night, and a naughty baby is a baby that doesn't sleep all the way through the night and keeps the parents awake. And it's really important to understand a little bit about that, where that comes from, and that's very much something that was really sort of back to the 1950s and 60s, where babies were there was more encouragement for babies to feed on formula milk rather than breastfed babies, and it was something that there was promoted a lot more then than obviously it is now. But there is research that shows that formula-fed babies do sleep deeper, and they do sleep for longer bouts than breastfed babies. Purely because of the makeup of the feed. It's not absorbed as quickly or as effectively as breast milk. And what happens is that we need to be careful that our babies don't sleep for too long when they're very small. They do need to wake up, because it does protect them as they are growing up and developing. It protects them from these the possibility of sudden infant death, or cot death as we know it, and it means that we're actually allowing their natural body rhythms to do the waking and the sleeping as they require it. So they wake for feed, they go back to sleep for a short time, they wake up again, and it's a natural, normal way for them to maintain their survival, and to get all the nutrition that they need for their development and growth. And also to prevent them sleeping for too long and too heavy, which is potentially risky for them to do that. So it's very important that we don't put pressure on parents, and they don't put pressure on themselves to have a good baby that sleeps through the night as soon as possible, and really to try and get that sleep and those little naps when the baby sleeps, is to put the baby in the cot, get the sleep when you can, and hopefully to be able to cope with that better. There have been some studies that have been done around the controlled crying and actually getting babies to sleep, usually when they're 3 months and upwards. But this controlled crying can be helpful. There has been quite a lot of study done around it, and there's, at the end of the day, it doesn't show that there is any real major problems with allowing babies to cry, not in the first few weeks, but certainly to allow them to cry for a little bit, and then not to actually go in and pick them up and fuss them, but make sure that they're safe, and that they're clean and they're dry and they're fed, and that they can be left a little bit to learn to settle themselves at night. But certainly not in the first few months. It's not recommended. There isn't any. As far as they know, there are no real long-term problems associated with that. But as we're saying, it's something that you need to discuss with your health visitor, because your baby must be well, they must be healthy, and they must be feeding properly. And those kind of behaviour, what we call behaviour management techniques, are something that need to be discussed on an individual basis for your particular baby's needs.
And I think we're going to be talking a little bit to Tracey now.
Hello, thank you. I'm going to go over the key points again around about safe sleep and reducing the risks of cot death or sudden infant death. As I said before, there's been lots of research over the last 22 years, and we've successfully reduced the cot death rate. It was over 1,000 babies dying every year 22 years ago, and now it's round about 300. So we still really need to get that message across. And the things to do for safe sleep are always place your baby on their back to sleep in their own cot or Moses basket, never in parents' bed for sleep, because babies can overheat. So always in their own cot, no coverings on the head, no pillows for babies under 6 months, and with the blanket sort of tucked in under the mattress, so baby can't kick the blankets up over their body, which they can because they're very strong. Breastfeed your baby if you can, really important. Use a good, firm, clean, new mattress for all newborn babies. And things to avoid are sleeping on the sofa or in an armchair with a baby can be really risky. Babies can overheat, can be very dangerous. And never sleep in the same bed as your baby if you've been drinking alcohol or smoking or taking drugs, if your baby was born prematurely or was of low birth weight. And always avoid letting your baby get too hot. Keep baby's head uncovered. As I said before, babies don't need pillows. Even, after 6 months, babies really don't need pillows. It's good for babies to lay flat. And as I said, breastfeed if you can. If you need more information about safe sleep, contact your health visiting team on 01795 433 950. You can look online at the Lullaby Trust's website. There's lots of evidence-based research there, lots of really interesting information for parents, relatives, and for professionals. And that's on www.lullabytrust.org.uk.
And we're covering all about sleep this evening.
Yeah, I thought we'd move on to a little bit about night terrors and nightmares. I know that lots of parents have experienced this with their children, and it can be quite scary when you have your child just suddenly wake up in the night and scream the place down for no particular reason. But it's important to say actually that it's common that many children suffer from nightmares and night terrors, and I will talk a bit about the difference between the two. And they will grow out of them usually. There's not usually any medical reason why they happen, and they don't cause any long-term psychological harm or any damage to the children at all. It is something they will get over and grow out of. And they usually start to occur between the ages of about 3 upwards till about 8. what a night terror is basically is that it's they are again common between the ages of 3 and 8, and it's a child who experiences a night terror might scream and thrash around and panic. They may get out of bed very quickly, but they look as if they're awake, but they're not properly awake. They are actually still asleep. And what's happened is that they've been disturbed in the period of the first few hours of sleep. It usually happens earlier in the night when they go to sleep, and it's from their non-dream sleep. So it's not the deep sleep that they go through; it's the non-dream sleep. So they often can be triggered off by tiredness, and if they're on any medication or they're ill in any way, and then they're likely to wake up from the deep sleep, and it could be a sudden noise, it could be because they've gone to bed and they're anxious, or they're overexcited about something that they're looking forward to that's coming up. And for a night terror, you don't want to be waking the child up and scaring them. What you want to do is allow them to put them back to bed, let them calm down, let them be relaxed, and then gently wake them up. And if you find that it's the same occurrence every night for a period of time, you find that they are, say, waking up at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night or something like that, or even midnight or around that sort of time, is to perhaps wake them up in anticipation. So wake them up a little bit sooner, so that they don't get into that time when they might wake up. So you break the cycle, really. That you're actually breaking the cycle of that time when they might wake up. So it's nothing to worry about. If you're happy that your child is well, and if they are ill, that they're being treated by your GP, then there's nothing long term that's gonna happen to them. A nightmare is slightly different in that it's a different part of the sleep cycle. It's later on. It's when they're in the deep sleep, in the dream sleep they call it, when we fall into a deep sleep. So it happens later on in the night, and often it can be associated with sleepwalking as well. But nightmares are usually something that is happening because they are worried about something. That there is something that they are. That's there that they're worried about, or they've seen a scary film, or they've experienced something scary at school, or somebody's upset them. That's when they can wake up and have a nightmare. And it's the same thing. It's to make sure that they're safe, that they're not sleepwalking, that they go back to bed, that you put a light on, let them calm down, and then gently wake them up. Don't startle anybody who's having a nightmare, a night terror, and leading into sleepwalking. Obviously, that's the same principle there, is that you make sure that they are safe, and that you don't wake them up suddenly and frighten them, that you put them back to bed, that you actually make sure that they are safe, and they will come out of it. Wake them up and they'll come out of it. Breaking the routines of these nightmares or night terrors is the big thing. Very often they'll last a very short span of time, and then they finish, and that's the end of it, and you don't really know what caused it. If they continue, then you can actually go into some management sort of way of managing them by, as I've just said, waking them up in anticipation. If they if they normally come up, have the night terror or the nightmare at a certain time of the night, go in and wake them up just before that happens, so that they don't actually go into that period of terror or nightmare. And obviously, bedtime routines are really important. Bedtime routines for sleeping is to make sure that that they are prepared for sleep, that they are calm, that they don't have TVs in their room, that they're able to have a story, a bath, that the babies, young children, are clean and dry, they've been to the toilet, and that they are in a slightly dim lighted lit room, that they haven't got too much stimulation, and they're not dealing with scary things before they go to bed. Some of these things are common sense, and most people will be well aware of nighttime routines, but and also to get a routine of actually getting them to bed quite nice and early, especially if they've got school and nursery, and when they get a bit older and they've got school and nursery to think about. But any routines that people are struggling with, then please get in touch with our health visiting team, and we can do individual packages of what we call packages of care. We can actually look at the individual child and the circumstances in the family and help them to establish a good routine.
And I think we're just going to round things off, Mandy, I think.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and please remember that we are here in the Swale team to answer any of your questions and any worries that you might have or anything we've talked about. Obviously, we've not had time to go into a great deal of detail. We've just given you a good sort of overview of what we were talking about and how you can address some of the problems you have with sleep and the important messages that we need you to listen to and to hear around safe sleep and preventing the risks of cot death. Our duty health visitor line is available every day, Monday to Friday, between 9 and 5. There's always a health visitor in the office to answer your questions and any problems you might have. And 2 nights a week, we're actually extending that so that we are open until 8 o'clock on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So we've got Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're 9 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the evening, where a health visitor is there ready to answer your questions and your worries. Obviously, if you have medical problems with your children that you are really worried about, then obviously you need to be going to hospital or you need to be going to your GP. But it's always worth perhaps running things by us first, and we can put your mind at rest and advise the best action to take. And we'd like to hear actually from listeners if we will be setting something up, hopefully to get some feedback from listeners to tell us what perhaps you might like us to cover on the radio.
Well, Mandy and Trace, I'd like to thank you very much for coming in and speaking to us all about sleep this evening.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
inviting us.
That's Mandy and Tracy coming in as part of our regular slot with the Health Visitor Team Swale. And I've no doubt that we'll be seeing Mandy with another colleague and another theme in a month or so time here at the Monday Night Community Show.